Hello, hello, and welcome to Millionaire Brand Creation. I am super excited to have a good friend of mine here on the show and on the podcast. She is a top 10 coach ranked by Yahoo News as one of the best in the United States, two-time TED Talk speaker, two-time published author, and also one of the top 100 women to watch by the Women's Business Journal. So without further ado, I'd love to bring on my friend Olenka Cullinan. How are you?
Hi, thanks for having me. I'm great. How are you?
Good, good. Thanks for being here. And I love what you do for women, and I love how you empower women. I think that's a huge thing. And let's talk about optimizing your life. What are you seeing with people and some of your clients?
It's been an interesting experience to watch this unfold because, I feel that our society is definitely going in this direction of wearing busy as a badge of honor.
Hmm.
But busy and productive, as you and I know, are not even in the same area, right? People can be busy and we are grinding, and this whole culture of grind and hustle, which I'm all about hard work. I'm a huge proponent on that. But to me, it needs to be strategic, smart work. And to be honest with you, in 2022, I kind of switched my mode. I no longer say it's work, I say it's creation process.
Hmm.
Because whatever you're doing, you're building something, whether you're building wealth or you're building your lifestyle. And when you optimize your life, really, your goal is to work smarter, not harder.
Hmm.
So to me, it's a big creation process where you have to figure out how do you step away from being busy and just putting things on your calendar and checking things off versus being productive where you actually look at these things and say, are they serving me? Are they moving my goals forward? Are they building my millionaire habits and brand, right? Or is it just something that I'm going through daily basis? And it's funny because whether I work with clients and companies that are smaller, on the smaller side, around quarter million, a half million, all the way to the companies like my largest client last year was $20 million company. But what I see, it's very similar trends where what's on your calendar is not necessarily bringing your results all the time.
Hmm.
And so you have to become really ruthless at going back, looking at your calendar, looking at your life and saying, what am I spending my time on really? Like, what am I spending time on that's either going to propel my goals forward or just keep me moving with no results?
I think that's a good point. And talking about time, let's go back in time. And how did you even get into this type of business? Start us from the beginning. How were you as a little girl, and how did you become such a influencer and entrepreneur?
Yeah, you guys can hear from my accent that I'm not from Texas. So I'm actually born and raised in Russia. I'm Russian, Ukrainian, Polish, kind of that Eastern European combo. But what I took for granted for the longest time is the fact that my mom was a diehard entrepreneur. And
Mm.
she built out a company, ran it for 37 years. I started working with her when I was 14. And she'll never admit that, but that's really the reason I speak English so well because she hired me a tutor. And by the time I was 14, I was walking into the rooms and translating $1 million contracts. And I didn't
Oh,
think
wow.
anything of it. But I took all those skills she gave me in the process because think about it. I had to go to school like a normal teenager, but I also had to go into the meetings. We would travel all over Europe. I would meet all these entrepreneurs and business owners. So all the skills they taught me in the process, which is organizing my time, really figuring out how do I streamline everything so I can still have fun and
Hmm.
still do work. So all those skills came early on. And then my dad was a government official. So talk
Mm.
about completely opposite polarity, super by the book. Everything is check marked. Everything is structured. So I really was exposed to both sides of the spectrum here, which helped me in the long run to see that one, time is really limitless if you
Mm.
organize it correctly and
I
you
love
have
that.
opportunities to do that. And so when I moved from Russia here, my mom kind of, I went into teaching for a little bit and ran my first company in the educational space, which again showed me how if I can do it with 14 to 17-year olds, I certainly should be able to do it with adults. It's just a little bit harder with adults because, we are not as pliable in our learning styles, and we are kind of like hanging on to our old habits sometimes. But in reality, it helped me to see that if you take the best companies in the world or the best leaders in the world and really see and really show them that being busy is not a flex, like when you're not able to be there for your teams, when you're not able to be there for your
Right.
family and your loved ones, it's just making money. But
Right.
to me, money is a tool. And if you're not applying your time, which is your most important resource, correctly, that's kind of what showed me from very early on, being, as young as a teen, that you can really build your life into whatever you want it to be.
So how did you go from teaching younger people into really focusing a huge female tribe and cultivating the female mind to create business success? That seems like an interesting niche.
Yeah, and honestly, it was an interesting niche from very beginning because first of all, so my mom ran a manufacturing business, so I was all around men. I was used to walking into rooms full of men. I grew up with the only brother, so 50% tomboy. And then in the process, when I started running the first company, Rising Tycoons, and working with young kids, what we saw is we didn't have any girls coming into our program.
Mm,
Like our first three cohorts were all boys. And I thought that is so bizarre how
mm,
we don't have enough young girls who are wanting to be leaders and step into this whole different mentality of having your own, whatever it is, version of success. And so I did that and then got propelled to the university level. We started working with university. I'm still actually a venture mentor with ASU. I get 6 startups a year and I get them to the first round of seed funding. This is my do good for the
oh, I
world.
love that.
And I love it. And then from that, saw the same thing. We had 300 students enter the cohort, 184 of them were males. And I'm like, okay, this is now a different demographic struggling the same struggles. And
Right.
then I got invited into my first published book, which was called Passionistas. 27 women came together. We shared our stories of how we were building our success. I started getting invited to conferences and events to speak to women. And again, every time I would go into C-suite conference, it was 80-20 men to female ratio. And I
Mm,
thought, this is crazy. Like how are we not having more women who are saying,
yeah.
I'm not busy, I can be successful, I can have family, and I can love my kids, but I still can fulfill myself. And I thought this is like some illusion that's very bizarre, that's coming from generations prior to us. And honestly, it's pretty funny because one of my guy friends said, what are you going to do about this? I said, I have no idea. And we were in a coffee shop in Scottsdale, Arizona, when he said, well, don't you always start first? And I said, yeah, I start first. And he goes, that's your brand. We bought that domain right there. So for all of you out
Ah,
there saying how you have to be prepared, you don't have to be prepared for anything. You kind of do it and build it all at the same time. And honestly, that's how the brand was born. And I just became that first, I mean, not the first woman, but definitely became one of the women who
mm.
said, that whole notion of success that is so elusive to women because we can't build the balance between time and work. It's not real. We can absolutely change that. We don't have to be adherent to that old mentality that you can only be a great wife or only be a great partner or only be a great business owner. If you position the time correctly, you can do it absolutely all across
Can
the
do it
board.
all, and that's what people don't understand. It's like building a
Mm-hmm.
pizza, right? There's so many
Mm-hmm.
different ingredients that make it good, and missing one ingredient ruins the whole thing. And so many people focus on money, or they focus on family, or they focus on fitness, or they focus on one thing when you need to have everything. That's the
Absolutely.
problem. So
Mm-hmm.
that's the dynamic. And what I love is, you introduced me to one of your best friends, Maria, who is such an inspiration and helping so many people and became a client and a friend. And I love the culture you're creating because you're empowering women to do more. And I think
Mm-hmm.
that's the goal of what we all could hope to do is our success hopefully can be reflected and reverberated with other people so they too become more successful. And that's always the intent. And that's why we do this, right? We're not
Oh,
getting
100%.
compensated
Yeah.
for it. We're
And to
helping
me,
others.
honestly, I always say that the best leaders are never going to be leading anybody. The best
Right.
leaders are going to facilitate and give them parameters and give them tools to go execute it better. Like I want my clients to all be better than me. It's kind of like with
Me
your kids,
too.
right? Women who have kids can relate. We all want our kids to do better than us. And so it's the same with leadership, in my opinion. The more, like, the bigger tribe you build, the more people you get to own what they want,
Yeah.
the better you are benefiting from that, because you're essentially just learning from them, you're growing from them. I mean, I grow from my clients just as much as they grow from me, because I get to experience things that I maybe have taken for granted. And I get to see the light bulbs go on the daily basis, where these women go, oh my God, I can't do this. I
Right.
can't get, I mean, on average, the clients and companies I work with, I teach them to gain anywhere from 12 to 15 hours a week back.
Wow.
I mean, imagine getting 10 hours a week of your time back when you're still scaling your business. But now, I mean, I have women cry saying, I don't know what to do with this time. This is amazing. Like, I can go have coffee and sit at a coffee shop and have brunch with my girlfriends and take my kids to, I don't know, to the park and spend that quality time with them. Because a lot of us, unfortunately, are so conditioned in that horrible idea of multitasking, which in my opinion is just doing a lot of things poorly. And so when you really teach yourself to stay laser focused and really build your life by design, this is my biggest thing. You know, I have a proprietary method I train all, which is called GPS method, which most people don't live their life like that. And
You and
that's
I
the whole
do.
point. Yeah. And that's the point behind it, you know? And I mean, as women, we all use GPS all the time. I mean, women are not, I'm horrible with directions. So for me, it's just such a relevant, you know, notion that you build backwards, right? If you were to ride from here to Tucson or anywhere in the US, the GPS drops that pin and then builds your route backwards
Right.
towards.
So let me ask you a quick question. So can you hear me? Uh-oh. Well, anyway, we'll talk about what she was saying, but Olenka, if you can hear me, talk
Yep, I
about,
can.
yeah, I can hear you now. So talk about, you see entrepreneurs in their infancy, right? You see young
Mhm.
ones, you see older ones, and you see the ones that want to reinvent themselves. What
Yeah.
are like 3 steps people can take now to get to that next echelon of their life? What would you recommend?
Uh, yeah, absolutely. Thing one is you have to get super, super attached in a best way of this, in the best sense of that word, to your goals. Like,
Oh,
most people are
interesting.
scared to commit to real
Attached.
goals.
I like that.
Yeah, yeah, because they'll say things like, I want to scale my company. Well, let's be realistic. Scaling your company 100,000 versus 500,000 are two very different processes, right?
Right.
Going from $150,000 of income to 1 million of income is a very different process. It involves teams, it involves bringing people, management, all kinds of things. So your goals have to be as specific as possible,
Mm.
but also have what I call the heart, because everybody talks about SMART goals. I say that they have to have a heart. And what I mean by that is, if they don't pull your heartstrings, the
Mm.
second it gets tough, you're
You'll
going to drop
stop.
them,
Yeah.
minimize them, step away from them, pretend you never talked about this.
Right.
So you won't commit to them fully. Like, they have to be relevant. And another thing they need to do is they have to have rewards. Most of us
Mm.
suck, especially women, suck at rewards. Like, we will crush a major goal and take ourselves to the movies for that. I mean, I'm sorry, that's not that enticing for me, you
Getting a
know?
cup of
And like,
coffee this morning.
I mean, I use this analogy. Like, last year, my goal was that if I crash my goals by third quarter, which was my goal because I wanted to take my fourth quarter kind of as it goes, I went to a trip in Europe for 10 days. That was my reward for me, to go on a trip anywhere I wanted with however I wished. And I did that. But that was, the reward was equal to my amount of work that I was putting
Mm.
in to get to those goals. So that's step one. They have to have goals with heart and something that's attached to a massive reward that entices them.
So Olenka,
Step
back up
two,
a little bit for me if you can. Your
oh,
face is, yeah,
yeah, for
there
sure.
you go. There
Yeah.
you go. Now you're looking very
Yeah, for
stylish.
sure. So I get excited. So I'm like, I want to grab them from the screen. And then next thing is definitely getting mentors in place. I will
Mm.
tell you, I almost killed my first business because I did not bring mentors on board early enough. because it's especially relevant for women, but I think for men too. We all think that asking for help is a sign of weakness, which is so not the case.
I couldn't agree
And a
more.
lot of times we'll like hang on and try to do everything by ourselves, which is a horrible idea, because all you get from mentors are shortcuts and basically ability to facilitate and save you from some of the veering off that is happening. So they'll give you a much shorter pathway to success. They'll give you bad ideas. They'll give you opportunity to save you from some of the mistakes. And that is why, to me, having mentors in place is absolutely, absolutely crucial.
I
And I
call
would
it,
say
no, keep
say it
going, keep
again.
going, keep going. I'm curious.
And then the third one is definitely being ruthless with your time.
Mm-hmm.
And I would say, especially in a sense of who you give your time to, because most of us feel so bad on walking away from people that no longer serve us. And that's a big, big issue a lot of times, because if you spend your time with people that don't serve you, that don't push you, that don't cheer on your goals, I always say it's like a bus, right? And if you've ever been on a bus, especially if it's a school bus, if your surrounding sucks, that's not an enjoyable ride.
That's right.
So if you are the driver, you need to have a good co-pilot, you need a good cheering team, you need to have a good, basically kind of like the map person who is giving you ideas where to go next. And that's usually your mentor. But so all these people in play surrounding you. And I mean, yes, we have the old adagio of the 5 people around you is who makes it. I take it one step further. I say the 5 people around you all have to be better than you. Like, I love walking in the rooms where I feel like a guppy fish. I've done it my whole life. Like, I'm very rarely in the rooms that make me comfortable. I would say 80% of my time is spent in the rooms that make me extremely uncomfortable. And that is why I'm progressing in my business as fast as I have. And, I'm able to build the networks as fast as I do. It's because I'm always with people who are better than me. Like, I am not intimidated by smart people. I love it. I want to learn at all times. And a lot of us drag people along who don't serve us.
So true. And relationships too. It's funny when one window closes, another door opens, and the opportunities in our lives have to do with equal or more. One of the things I love about you, and I think why we became close friends with Cynthia and all these other, local influencers and beyond, is we always try to surround ourselves with people with equal or more. Equal or more energy, equal or more excitement, equal or more resources, equal or more money, and that makes us better. But talking about mentors, I wanted to know what you thought about this. I was talking to a friend of mine who's a mentor of mine who actually invests some of my money for me, and he's worth about $80 million. And he said, Michael, what most people fail on is most people are solopreneurs. They're all focused on being the island and doing it themselves. And I'm me against the world. And as we know, that shit doesn't work. It just flops on its face. I learned that hard way in my 20s. The second level is entrepreneurs. Oh, I'm an entrepreneur. What are you preneuring? I mean, their ideas are great, but if there's no people attached to it, there's no income attached to it, there's no resources attached to it, it's nothing. It's an idea. It's, it's fairy dust. It's fugazi, right? So that's the dynamic. But he said what you have to become is, he said, Michael, you're in a position now in your life where you are an entrepreneur, a legitimate entrepreneur, but you have to shift into an investorpreneur. And I said, an investorpreneur? He says, yeah, the investorpreneur class, the real true wealthy people are people that use their money, their resources, the people that they know, their inner sanctum, and they move pieces on the chessboard around to invest in other people's ideas, to invest in your ideas, and your money, like you said before, is now a tool to go out and create more income, right? It's almost a slave for yourself. And that's when I'm like, huh. So he says, so many people stop at entrepreneurialism. You're still trading time for money. Instead, you need to use your resources and people to create more of that dynamic amongst a larger group. And I think that's an important takeaway that you talk about as well.
Yeah, no, absolutely, 100%. And that's why, hence, I talk about mentors, the teams, but absolutely, even the companies I work with, I take equity with no shame in the game, because if I believe in you and I want to support you and I'm running with you, I want part of this success, not
Yeah.
because I wanted to claim it, but because I know we can grow it more. I'm more excited. I'm more invested into this. So yes, absolutely. I'm a huge fan of, how can we grow quicker? How can we, bring more people on board, and basically absolutely invest the time and resources and money into the next generation, whatever you want to call it, the next big, best business. So
Yeah.
for me, it's absolutely super enticing.
One of the
Definitely.
questions I had for you, which I always thought was interesting, is you have a huge network of women and you really don't like men speaking in front of the women, correct?
Well, it's not quite that. So I'll tell you exactly the reasoning behind it.
Yeah.
If I bring men, and I'm gonna not try, basically, me, I'm in your face but on your side, so I'm not gonna offend men by saying this, but not all men understand what it's like to speak to women. Unfortunately, a lot of
Mm.
men, one, don't necessarily relate, and two, sometimes I a little bit more ego driven than women are. It's a nature of the game. Men are designed, and I honestly don't think there's anything wrong with healthy egos for both men and women. So to me, one of the reasons I shy away is because, one, it has to be a particular kind of man who can handle that. And two, a lot of times my events are all women for the sake of their presence. Because
Mm.
when you start mixing opposite sexes, whether you want it or not, there is some excitement, there is curiosity, there is chemistry, there is all this chemical things that are starting to happen. And I notice, for me personally in my events, just because how deep we go and how vulnerable I get my
Mm.
women to become, a lot of times they'll shy away almost from the sense of a certain kind of pride to show the true face in front of men. So that is why I hold back a lot of times. But I have brought men to speak to my groups before. Again, they have to be, it's kind of like somebody made a joke on my feed yesterday that I posted you and my friend, and they said, "We can't believe you're posting two men in a row. Is everything okay?" And I said, absolutely. It's This have to be particular kind of men that I believe in their mission, that they're basically GOAT in their industry. They stand for something I relate to.
Right.
And that's the kind of man I like to promote, surround myself with, bring in front of my women. So to me, it's a combo of both things.
Now, here's a question. You see a lot of entrepreneurs at different levels of their business. What are some failure points that are common amongst women and the entrepreneurial space that maybe they can avoid?
I would say, one, starting.
Starting.
Starting for women is a lot of times, because here's the thing: men have this amazing ability where they will go and they will present themselves, even if they're not 100% sure, they'll own it and they will
Mm.
act as if they're 1,000% sure. The fake it till you make it kind of
Right.
mentality. Men are much better at this. Women, because we're nurturers by nature and we're perfectionists by nature most of the time, we want everything aligned. We want every star
Mm.
to align. We want our office to look fabulous. Our website has to be the best. Our logo has to be stunning. And only when all these things come into play, we say, okay, we're ready to pull the trigger. Like when I work with my startups, I'm going to give you a very, interesting statistic.
Yeah.
Most of the time, my startup tears happen when I make them push the website go live. Like, you have no idea how many women in my startup area, I will get to the point where we're ready to go and they literally have a heart palpitation, stress from pressing that button that they are now live and they can sell to the live audience. Okay.
Wow.
So that's that little step we have to go into. I would say later in the game, another big difference I see is women are very hard to convince to take outside investment,
Mm.
because for a
That's
couple
interesting.
reasons. One, I feel it's because they feel like I have my super cape on and I can do everything myself, kind of what
Right.
you were referring to earlier. Like, I got this. I'm going to figure it out and bootstrap it to the point where I'm eating ramen noodles for 20 days straight. But not all the bootstrap is a good bootstrap. We
Right.
all know that. Like, you can literally kill a company from that.
Yep.
And also because they're so much more shy to jump into that opportunity, because they feel that responsibility. Like, now I have someone else's money in the game and I have to under deliver. I mean, and I have to over deliver. So I'm going to under promise to no end, just so I have that responsibility that I'm carrying. So those, I would say, are two biggest differences. And to be honest with you, I think that's one of the reasons women are a little bit more shy to get into real estate for that exact thing, because they're coming in with the outside investment. They now carry that responsibility that I have to have the performance level and I have to know everything about everything. And unless I'm an expert, I'm scared to play the game and take that money.
It's an interesting word, scared. How do you compartmentalize fear? Because we were saying last time, we interviewed a friend of mine from Colorado. He's a successful entrepreneur in the VRBO business and beyond, in the food business, and young person similar to us. And I said, I think every entrepreneur is either afraid of something, running from failure, or is totally insecure with themselves. That's why they're a perfectionist. What do you think in regards to that with women, and how do you negate that fear when it comes to teaching them how to succeed?
Yeah, you see, I have a little bit of an opposite kind of viewpoint on fear. I say that it's just part of the journey. I basically say it's an opportunity to learn lessons, and nobody likes learning lessons. So you almost have to get to that point where you just embrace it as a part of your journey. That's what I teach my women. I tell them a couple things. One is, if you step over a certain fear threshold, you will never jump back down again. So like, once you did 10 sales calls, you can never say, I don't know how to do it, because you have just lived through, the sweat and the palms and the quivering in your stomach and all those things. So you now can never go back to that level. You're now a little bit higher. So every time you experience fear, I mean, we can call it blue for all I care, pink. Right. It's just an opportunity to jump to the next level. So I personally talk about business, and you'll hear me about life as well, as if it's a video game. Like, if you played Mario Kart, I'm a big fan of talking about hitting your head on the wall until the mushroom comes out and all that stuff.
I've used that analogy
and so too. To me, yeah. So to me, I always say that all you do with fear is basically stepping into that uncomfortable, living through that the best way you can, just so you can get to the next level in the video game. And if you experience, it's almost like desensitizing yourself, right? Like they do with Navy SEALs or whoever. The more you experience a sort of certain parameters of being uncomfortable, the easier it gets to get on the other side. So at this point, I've been uncomfortable so many times in my life that I almost do not get faced by it anymore. I'm still uncomfortable. Do I still have like the physical feelings that come with it? Absolutely. I mean, if you put me, we all do. It's part of human nature. But what I'm trying to teach women, because we're so emotional, is to say, hey, these emotions are a part of the process. They're not my enemy. This is just me feeling the feels and walking through certain things that are uncomfortable. But it's not the end result. It's just a stepping stone to that next level video game that you're trying to get to.
Yeah, that's a good point. I think Steve Harvey had a quote the other day that I really liked. He says, so many people walk through hell and they wonder where they stop. Obviously, you don't want to stop in hell. You want to keep running until you get out of it. Yeah, and that's absolutely. Business a lot of the times. You have to walk through the 7 circles before you actually get to heaven. And I think a lot of people stop and they settle and they fail too early. I always say 100%. Failure is just a pit stop towards success. And if you can fail quickly and realize your failure and move on. And relationships are difficult in regards to that, because whether we like it or not, we're in the relationship business. And relationships are cultivated in business through connection, right? Commonality. Why do you and I like each other? We respect each other. I respect what you do. I like the people look up to. You have good intentions, and I would assume vice versa. But I think so many people are having a hard time throwing their gifts out there, putting themselves on social media, taking a risk, taking a chance, and just saying, this is me. And because it's such a polarizing dynamic, tell me about how your journey manifested in that, where I'm sure you have haters, you have people that love you, And then you have people in the middle that are kind of looking from afar that aren't commenting. How do you deal with that? How do you tell your female clients to deal with that?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, absolutely. It's a journey. Yes, to everything you just said. And more importantly, to me, if you are not, basically, to me, if you don't have either haters or people who don't support you or people who are watching from afar, you're not doing enough. That's how I always say it. Like,
I like that.
think about it. Even when we vote for the president of the country, regardless when you stay where you stand politically, there's going to be like 49% of the population that do not like you, right? Automatically. Right. You go into the highest position in the world knowing that 49% of people in your area do not like you. I mean, that's a very gutsy move in the first place.
Yeah.
So I think of business and positioning yourself in social media and being that in that influence. I mean, one, it's a huge responsibility. So when people go on, they need to realize that, like, if you're going to go out there and advocate on someone's behalf, your behalf, whatever cause you're standing for, know that it's a responsibility. There are certain ways I have to present myself, and you are the same way. That's how we relate to, because we know our brand, we know what we stand for, we know our beliefs, our intentions. So we show up 24/7 a certain kind of way, right? You're not going to post, I'm not going to post on social media me partying with my friends and doing whatever, because of how I show up and the presence I want to create. And it's not me trying to hide that I'm not human. I post plenty of human things about me, but I really truly, with all my heart, believe that it's a responsibility to teach people on what you are and what you stand for. In terms of having people who don't like you, I am very clear, and I make it, known, but I also teach all my clients that my goal is not to be everything for everyone. Like, I'm not ice cream or pizza or tequila, whatever is your preference. I'm not trying to make everybody happy. There are certain type of women and clients and companies that resonate with me because my motto is indeed in your face, but on your side. And then there are certain type of people who are not going to resonate. There are people who like people who just talk to them and don't give them tools and just support them. And they're more of like the space to listen to and to facilitate. I'm an action person, right? I'm an action coach first. To me, like any woman, I will cry with you and eat a type of ice cream, but then I will say, what are you going to do next? That's going to be my next question. So when I go on and I position myself in my social media or in my presence and influence in PR, certain type of way, I'm very clear on who my clients are. And that's what I'm trying to get to my clients is, your goal is to never serve everyone. Your goal is to serve people who will resonate with you. And to do that, you need to know yourself really well. Because let's be honest, if you don't know who you are and what you stand for, it's going to be very hard to deliver this message to people who resonate with you. Because when you come from that place of knowing, from that place of awareness, who you want to serve, everybody who is hate commenting on me, I'm like, it's okay. I never planned to serve you in the first place. Please hit that unfollow button, love and light. I wish you peace. Yeah. And then when I have people who are watching me, I also know who they are. I know what stage of the game they're at. I know what they need to get to that next level of threshold. So ideally, if I'm a good leader, I'm going to try and cultivate that information for them. So at some point, they jump that. They take that leap of faith. Like I have that unofficial title, the Queen of Pushing Boss Babes Off the Ledge. I do it very gently and, only when they're ready. And I will jump with them and hold their hand. But it's true. I mean, I know at this point, I've done it enough times, what it takes for me to get a woman to jump if she's ready. And if she's in a place in her life that she's willing to take that leap of faith with me. It's the same with the companies I go into. I know how to get them to the next level in the game. If they're not at that level, it's one of two things. We're not a match, which is the same as any relationship, and that's okay, right? I'm not trying to date everyone. And then on another end, you maybe are not at that place yet, so it's just not right now.
So here's a question, because I think this is the question I always wanted to ask you. As a person who's successful in business and driven, you and I are very regimented in our movements, right? Where we know what we want, we know what we want to create. Why do you think it's so difficult for people like us to be in a very successful relationship, personally?
Because of a couple of things that you just said. One is because we know what it takes to have any kind of successful relationship, right? Business, no different. It takes a healthy amount of work, and it takes effort, and it takes presence. So those factors are ultimately going to play in a personal relationship too. So you're looking for someone, like you said, equal or better.
Right.
You're looking for someone who can meet you at that level or better your life in some certain kind of way, right? They're supposed to be a bonus. We're not playing to find a whole filler in all, no pun intended. But
that's the line of the day. I like that. A whole filler.
It is the line of the day. I just came up with it. Everyone is welcome. But the goal really, you're not trying to find voids.
Right.
We already know our voids. We're working on them actively most of the time. So when we're looking for someone, we kind of want to find that equal match. And not all the people are prepared to face that. Let's be honest. Sometimes we meet partners who check off on all their, in all the right areas. But then when we start going deeper and building that meaningful kind of like a long-term relationship, when we find things that don't work, we're very much solution driven. We're like, okay, what's the plan? How are we going to fix it? What do I need to do? Who do I need to bring to help me? Most people are not like that. Most people will sit on the things they're not ready to face for a long time. But what you and I know is time is your highest commodity.
Right.
And so I don't have 10 years to wait on a possibility of change.
Right.
I would ideally like to know what you're going to do in the next 90 days to fix this.
Right.
And so when you get to all these little parameters that seem like something so insignificant, for you and I, they're part of the daily habits. They have been ingrained in our lives for so long that we just do them. And for many people, they're not. So they're taking the time, they're trying to process, they're sitting kind of in that,
limbo
mode of whether you call it victim or just indecision, whatever you want to call it, they'll just sit there. And so to me, what I honestly came to is I would rather take somebody who is willing to grow versus somebody who is coming out with all the like check marks checked off. Yeah. Because I feel that the person who is willing to grow is at least willing to face the hard things, just like I am, and have the tough conversations and work through them, versus if you are just kind of like in this little bubble of, I am this good human being and this is how I am. To me, this is how I am never gets you to good places.
Yeah, it's from good to great, right? You're stubborn, you're set, people are chasing comfort, and in that comfort, you become mediocre and average. And I think that's the biggest danger, and probably our biggest fear as individuals is I think I run so far the other way in my habits because I can't even fathom being like everyone else. It's a weird dynamic, and I'm sure you're the same way. Now, the question I have for you is, do you habit stack? Do you have a morning that's ritualized? And what do you do? I'm curious.
Yeah, I have my days bookended. I have a morning and night routine. And as a matter of fact, it's so ingrained that when I don't do it for a while, I'm starting to feel unbalanced immediately. So even on my vacations, I try to, if not like stick to it for sure, but do at least parts of it. So yeah, my morning routine is pretty easy. I literally, before I get off bed, I have my headphones right next to my phone. I never check email. I never go on social media. I plug in my meditation, very first thing I do. So I literally wake up and plug in my meditation. I do 10 to 20 minutes of my meditation first, even before I get up. And then I usually go drink coffee. I go work out. I'm not a super early riser. For all of those of you who are listening and expect me to save a 5:30 or whatever, I'm not it. And that gives you hope. I'm still fairly successful. And my days, like my meetings rarely start before 9. I usually do not take any meetings till 9 o'clock just because I don't think I'm humane enough to be to be around people. I like I'll check so I'll drink my coffee, do my breakfast. If I have my daughter, I drop her off school. I take my puppy for a walk. That's kind of like my morning. So I'll do meditation. I'll think of 3 things I'm grateful for, like kind of visualize them on my calendar. What's happening today, how I'm exciting, and I kind of visualize how it's all what the outcome is gonna be. And then I do like I said, I do breakfast, puppy, daughter, depending on whichever order. Gym, if I do gym, it's usually 8 o'clock. And then I start my day somewhere around 9. I'm very, very regimented about my emails. I only work on my email twice a day. I have a
Mm.
morning window and an afternoon window around 3:30. If you don't make either one of those two windows, you're
You're out.
somewhere around. And I'm okay with that. And everybody knows that. My team is trained on that. I also have power hours in my day. So
Mm.
my power hours are divinely protected, as I say that. Nobody, I mean, unless it's an emergency and you are like one of the people I've been waiting to meet for a year, nobody has access to my power hours. They're usually from 10:30 till about noon.
Mm.
And then I do another one from 4 to 5 because that's my most like exciting time. I'm really, really good
Mm.
at those times. So I do biggest tasks and projects. And then my night routine is I review my calendar for the next day. I'm extremely ruthless. It's not uncommon for me to cancel you the day before if I don't feel that you're feeding in what I'm doing right now. I'll do it in a
Love
very
that.
nice, polite way. I
Yeah.
will say, hey, can we move a couple weeks out because right now is X, Y, and Z. But I know everything that's happening the next day. So I, again, will look at all my meetings. I'll do my gratitude journal either mentally or I actually type it in my phone or write it in my journal book. I read 10 pages a day of a book that I'm currently reading
Mm. I like that.
before I go to bed. And then I usually will do another meditation right before I go to bed. And that's how I fall asleep.
So every day is almost the same in those 2 hour time
Yeah.
periods.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I
Mm-hmm.
think there's a lot of power in that. There's a lot of power in having that control over those habit stacking. And
Absolutely.
the more I look at biographies and super successful people, the only reason they're successful is they're doing the same thing every day over and over and over and over
Mm-hmm.
again.
Yeah.
And it
Yeah.
just becomes like, like for me now, I don't know if I told you this, but I started a workout routine.
Mm-hmm.
And I started that with my mother, which you've probably seen on Instagram and Facebook or whatever. But I was living with her for a couple weeks while I was renting my place out. And she says, "Oh, what do you want to do this year? New Year's resolutions." I said, "Instead of just talking about this bullshit, let's actually hit it and make sure we accomplish it." I said, "Why don't we work out every day for 365 days? We document it. We have 4 or 5 or 6 or 7 people that are in it with us. They're going to fail, but we're not because we're the leaders of this whole thing." And she says, "Oh, I don't know." I said, "Yeah, I'm going to do it. So I need you to do it with me." And so now that we're accountable for each other,
Mm-hmm.
she went from 150 pounds down to 134 in 42 days. I went from 210 down to 197.
That's awesome.
And it's like now after day 27, I'm addicted to it, right? So if I
Mm-hmm.
wake up and I'm not implementing this routine, my headspace is just messed up. And so what I realized is you can do this in any aspect of your life. And I think it's so interesting for our watchers listening in. Everything can be done daily. Like for me, one of the things I've been doing in the last 5 years is paying down debt every single day or
Mm-hmm.
allocating money towards a project or a piece of real estate
Mm-hmm.
or a future endeavor or whatever. And I think if you break it down into a daily routine, you can do insurmountable tasks quickly. And I think a lot of people just don't understand that. Like for instance, a friend of mine I think paid me $4,000 to do a deep dive in her finances. And she owned a couple pieces of property, and she says, "Oh, I owe $300,000. I can pay this off." I said, "You could pay this off in 19 months." And she said, "How the hell am I going to afford $300,000 in 19 months?" I said, "You break it down daily. You have to pay
Mm-hmm.
this every single day between your savings, between your retirement, between your income, between all these side hustles and everything. You can do it. It's going to be difficult, but you can." And she didn't do it in 18, 19 months, but she did it in 21 months. And now
Yes.
she's a millionaire. So it's all these things that I think people create in their mind of, "Oh, it's impossible. I could never be with a supermodel. I could never be with a celebrity. I could never make $1 million a year." It's all mental construct bullshit. And as soon as
Absolutely.
people realize their limiting factors themselves, I think they'll go to huge heights.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what I
Yeah.
love about what you teach, because I think you give people the hope, especially as women, to say it can be done.
Absolutely.
It
Yeah.
can be
Yeah.
done.
Yeah. And honestly, I don't know if you saw it, but I recently posted something exactly to what you just said. I said, your limiting beliefs are not what limits you. What limits you is your commitment to them, because you
Mm.
become so committed to convincing yourself, or it can't be done, or I can't be doing this, or I can't have another side hustle. I said, I watch it daily. I have women who perform more on 20 hours than an average person will perform at 40. I
Mm.
have women who are CEOs and VPs in the company and are running side hustle. I have a woman in Pennsylvania who is like my go-to example, because she came to me. She said, she's a VP of was a VP of a very successful financial company, was with them 16 years. And she said, I want to live out my dream, but I have to match my income. And
Mm.
I mean, at that point and level of the game, you understand that the income is sufficient. And
Difficult,
so
yeah.
we had to match it. And I said, how badly are you willing to do it? And out of all crazy things, I said, what do you want to do? She said, I want to run series of Airbnbs. And I
Mm.
was like, what? I think I just hallucinated. But, I mean, it's just such a gap. But she said, I love it. I love going to the markets and picking the soaps and smelling the candles and putting all the little, things
Yeah.
for people to come and live it. Like, she wanted to be in that hospitality and loving on people her whole life. We worked her out of her position in 7.5 months. She's in her first two Airbnbs right now. She's about to get two more on board. She's loving every second of it. I get her little candles and gifts in the mail
That's great.
because she's living the dream. But
Yeah.
it's exactly what you said. How willing are you to give up on your commitment to your limits and beliefs? Because the minute you do that, you can put enough small steps. It's exactly what you were saying with your workout routine. It's exactly what it is with my kind of bookend in my day, because people overestimate their big vision all the time.
Mm.
And they consistently underestimate their small steps all the time. And to
Mm.
me, there lies that difference between good and great.
No, it's so true. It's so true. Yeah, I mean, the mind is such a powerful and disruptive tool. I mean, you look at it, I look at my life and I say to myself, what can I achieve? And as soon as I put a limit on it, I was unhappy. I was really, and you look at relationships and you look at dynamics and you say what works, what doesn't. And here's the rub I think most people don't understand. The more you achieve, the more your mind expects you to achieve. So that dynamic of really being a high achiever to others seems so insurmountable, but to you, you're like, that's it? I mean, I'm capable of doing so much more. And I think that in lies the problem, because so many people look at themselves in a critical self-talk mindset
Yeah.
as opposed to a cheerleader. Let's get up. Let's do this. Let's go. Let's help people. Let's excite people. And it's
Yeah.
really, I mean, I wonder if you have this too. Like, I wake up at times and I'm really pissed off and depressed. And it's only when I get into my habits and those habits that I can control, and someone texts me and said, "Hey, thank you for doing this. Hey, you really helped me today." I'm like, "Ah, it was all worth it." Have you ever had
Mhm.
that?
Yeah, oh, for sure, for sure. Yeah. And I mean, I think sometimes it's like kind of what you said too. It's because for us, it's just such a part of almost our ingrained nature at this point that we almost take it for granted.
Mm,
And we are like, oh, okay, well, I do this all the time. Like, it's the same thing. Like, it's so easy for me. But for people, like you said, for people who don't experience that, and when they finally get to experience that and they share with us what it feels like, because we're almost losing that memory sometimes, and it's interesting because I've had it where my clients brought it up to me. I'll
mm,
ask them to do something, especially with my younger companies when they're kind of at starting stages, and they will say, well, Olenka, don't you remember? And
right,
funny thing, I don't actually.
right.
So I have to remind myself to step into their shoes sometimes too, because for me it's such like, okay, another sales call, another meeting, another whatever. Of course I'm going to do. It's no big deal. Like you said, what do you mean? That's all it is.
Yeah,
It's going out and raising funds or pitching something. I'm like, I can pitch anybody with my eyes closed. I don't care who those people are. It's just
yeah.
natural to me. But once people don't experience that enough, it feels insurmountable. But that is why I think that's where that crucial step is. You're either going to do small things that may feel odd and uncomfortable just because it's like doctor's orders.
Right.
Uh, and that's how you get to greatness. Like you said, you're now addicted to your working out, right? 27 days, it feels like a routine, but not many people are willing or able or wanting to stay accountable for 27 days, 77 days, 127 days. That's where the difference is. If
You know
you're
what? You
not
know what
gonna,
the catalyst is? The
mm,
mind. You know, and the mind.
100%.
And I think you know, and I think last time we met in person was at that event in Old Town or whatever.
Uh-huh.
No, it was that our dinner or whatever. But at that event
Yeah.
in Old Town, I just broke up, and you know, you're feeling down, right? It has that emotional weight on your body where you're just like, yeah, I feel shitty because you still
Mm-hmm.
love the person, you still care for the person, there's still all these feelings for the person, yet you yourself are dissolved. You are your own person. And I thought, this moment is a defining moment in your life. Are you going to look and sink and go low and be the victim and go, oh God, oh, poor me, which a lot of people do? Or are you going to
Absolutely.
take this moment, rise like the phoenix, and say, you know what? Fuck them. I'm going right to the top. And it's funny because it's those moments that happen that create another moment in your life that becomes even bigger, you know, and like meeting you and meeting Maria through you and meeting
Mm-hmm.
all of our friends and having that collective dynamic. I almost believe, and I'm sure you're the same way, when you meet someone, you read their energy and you know
Yeah.
their intentions are pure, they have a kind heart, and they
Yeah.
want to do more. And I think there's too few people on this planet that want to do more. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? And
Absolutely.
I hope you can show that and teach that in so many women that you teach because they have so many gifts. I wish they shared it more with the world.
100%. I could not agree with this more. And to me, it's always like, listen, you have those gifts. You can hang on to them, but it's all, to me, I tell women all the time, you can be selfish
Mm-hmm.
and hang on to all the skills and all these gifts and all these opportunities for other women and men out there to get inspired by you, get inspired by the talents you have, by ability you can bring, or you can actually step out of your fear because you're going to inspire so many people. And it only takes one. You know, people ask me all the time, like, how did you start this whole tribe and the network and everything? I said, because I never spoke for many. I spoke to that one woman. You
Mm-hmm.
know, most people don't know the story about me, but when I went for my divorce, I basically walked away with
Mm-hmm.
almost nothing
Right.
except for my daughter, who was, 4 years old at the
Everything. Yeah.
time. And when I was building my first business, I had to go work as a nanny to cash
Wow.
flow my first business at the time. In a couple, and this couple is still my friends. They live in Gilbert. We're great friends now. They have 2 kids and they were extremely kind to me, but I had to go cash flow with them
Mm.
because I was not willing to give up on my business.
Wow.
And how many people will not do more, like you said, because they go into that victim mode? Oh, I lose opportunities, or I can't do this, or I don't have the investors who want to work with me. To me, it's always, how can I figure it out? For me, no is just not an option at the moment. So if it's not this way, I'm going to figure out a different way. And I'm going to keep like you said, you keep stepping up and another opportunity comes and another opportunity comes. They say that fortune rewards the bold. Of course it does, because whatever you believe in, God, universe, it's all about energy exchange.
Yep.
So the more energy you put out there when you want to work through things, you're going to get rewarded. You're going to get the right people on board. Somebody's going to come in and give you, opportunities. Somebody else is going to step in and help you, but you have to be willing to consistently step out of your comfort zone. Like you said, you either low and you take it as a low, or you take it as an opportunity and you go to that next
It's
level.
so true. I mean, the biggest thing I learned from Grant Cardone is he says, you know, you have to give something up big before you can really start something great. And so many, and the
Yeah.
biggest problem I feel, and I see this in people, they go after comfort, right? Oh, I made a little money. Let me protect it. Let me keep it. Oh shit, I can't spend it. I can't do anything. And they're so afraid of going out and interacting with people. They're almost isolating themselves from the potential opportunities of going out. And I think the biggest thing, the thing that scares me the most, and I'll just tell you this even on the air about marriage in general, is that isolation technique of being with one person, right? It's not about monogamy. It's about putting all my energy in one person and really loving that person, but unfortunately not feeling and not having the energy of other people's lives that are meant to enter our life as far as those connections, right? And I think that's the key. There's so many people in life that we're meant to talk to, we're meant to help, we're meant to touch, we're meant to learn from, we're meant to grow from. And when we isolate, whatever that looks like, we miss those opportunities. They pass us by. What do you think about that? I know we have a couple minutes left, but
Yeah, I mean, I'll be honest with you. I'm a big proponent of marriage, so
it's
you know.
good.
But however,
Yeah.
however, I 100% stand with you on what you said as a part two to this. A good marriage, any good kind of relationship, is not meant to isolate you. It's not meant to keep you in your little bubble.
Yep.
It's any good partner who truly, truly believes in you and stands with you and sees your value is going to propel you and encourage you to go meet people, take opportunities, you know. And that to me is the very definition of love the right way. To me,
I
love,
love that.
all love is really, and that's just simplifying it to me, is you having my best interest in mind.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you truly have my best interest in mind and we're good partners, you're going to see the opportunities that I see and encourage me to do them. You're going to see the people that I need to meet and encourage me to go meet with them. You're going to support me in the crazy, wild tangent I'm about to go on, even if I might possibly fail. And you're going to be aware of that and still say, do that. And you see, this is where most love relationships, marriage included, does not go that way. Because the minute we get hitched, for the lack of a better term, we get attachment going. Right. And that attachment is what creates the bubble, the isolation, that I'm scared that if you step out, there's something better, greener, higher, whatever, you know. But if you are true, you see, true love is supposed to allow you to be the absolutely realist version of yourself.
I agree 100%.
And if you cannot be in that realist version of yourself, that is not your partner, because then it's just an attachment mechanism. Yeah. It's not love, in my opinion.
So we have 1 minute left. If you were going to leave us with a quote or a parting gift for the viewers, what would that be? What do you want to leave us and take us home with?
Yeah, I would say, I always say one line to everyone, which is starting is as important as success. And if you guys want a little pick me up on that, you can just go to www.istartfirst.com, which is the name of my brand. And there is a book download that literally I think is a starting point for anybody who is struggling, or maybe a restarting point, or maybe the next level point, because it has the 3 shortest, simplest steps how to get yourself out of that zone. So you can download it, have it, send it to your friends. But yes, don't wait on anything that you want to do in life. Just start.
Take massive action. And I just want to thank you so much for taking the time. This was amazing. We'll have to have you back on. And I love you. I love your energy. I love your spirit. And go out and continue helping as many people as you can. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Michael. Love, all the love back.
Take care.
Bye.
Bye.